So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Your weekend is not complete without the First Lady of New York Radio. It's the Joan Hamburg Show. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
The holidays are almost upon us, and the city is booming. It's very complicated if you want to be midtown. Do not bring your cars no matter what you do. There are street closures all around the tree. People are coming in from all over. It actually feels good to see New York thriving. And by the way, Broadway is doing great too. A Beautiful Noise made a lot of money. There is a lot of stuff. Merrily We Roll Along, and off-Broadway, Music Man is knocking them for a loop with all the grosses they have. And The Lion King. Don't forget, these tickets are great holiday gifts for Hanukkah or Christmas. Hamilton, Wicked, Phantom of the Opera. And, in fact, Jeffrey Richards, who's a very well-known theater person and a Broadway press agent, he's behind Ohio State Murders, which a lot of people think is great. And you've got A Christmas Carol doing very well there. Some Like It Hot, 1776. It's a good time to come into the city. And don't forget, check out Sardi's Restaurant. It's part of theater history. And it's a great place to have a lunch or go for an early dinner if you're there for a matinee. And it just feels good to be in and around the city. And there are so many things to do. Just the other day, I went to a lunch at a private club in New York, the University Club, and Tina Brown has written a new book on Meghan and Harry. That place was packed. So many people are, I guess the documentary too. By the way, did you know that the documentary, which Netflix had, was one of the highest grossing docs they have ever had? There is so much interest, and people can't believe it, that Harry and Meghan, but they're incredibly popular in Europe, and they are drawing the crowds to the documentary, to television. Anytime their names are mentioned, people's hearts start beating fast. So it's an interesting phenomenon. And we're going to be with you, holding your hand if you need it, through the holidays. And it's a nice time of year, no matter what you celebrate, to have people over. And there are so many people, even if they don't celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah, who feel lonely at this time of year. So it's a nice time to invite people over for tea, for a drink, for cookies, for whatever. Order takeout Chinese food if you don't want to cook or make a fuss. And I loved when we were researching all this takeout Christmas and Hanukkah food, and rib roast was among the most popular main courses for all these people who sell it. So if you want a high-end holiday meal, you can listen to some of our features and try not to get yourself all stressed out. Enjoy it. And this is also a good time to make a little contribution, because every little bit makes a great difference. And again, we want to thank you for being part of our audience. It means a lot, and we love hearing from you. So stay tuned. We've got a great show ahead. We're going to deal with a famous Broadway actor, and we'll sit and chat about that. We'll give you food suggestions. We have a lot of good stuff. And again, thanks for being part of the Joan Hamburg audience. Don't forget, every Sunday at 2 o'clock, you can always listen to our podcast. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on social media, we're everywhere. So stay straight ahead. I'm Joan Hamburg.
The First Lady of New York Radio.
This is Joan Eats.
The First Lady of New York Radio, Joan Hamburg. Entertaining and informative. Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Well, I'm very happy with all these holidays coming upon us to talk to one of the great chefs, personalities, writer, lifestyle person, the one and only Rocco Dispirito. And I can't even tell you how many years ago I met Rocco, but I was having dinner with a New York Times food person, and she said, there's a young guy, I don't even think he's 20 years old, and he opened a restaurant called Union Pacific, and I hear it's terrific. Let's go. So we went, and it was unbelievable. It was so delicious, and that was the first time I met Rocco, and that was the start of a very busy, interesting, exciting career. And Rocco grew up, you know, he wasn't to the manner born, but his mom was very serious about food and a really good cook and could make a meal out of almost anything and loved it. So that's where you got the bug from. And no one discouraged you, or did they?
The bug definitely started with my mom and in her kitchen, in the kitchen of my grandmother and my aunts and uncles. And correct me if I'm wrong, but were you dining with Dan Barber that first night you came into?
You mean, yes, one of my extended family sons. No, I actually didn't go to you the first time with Dan Barber. It was with Marion Burroughs, who was reviewing restaurants in those days for the New York Times. But Dan and Dan had gone in there, right? Dan of Blue Hill fame.
Yes, he was in there. I thought he was there with you one time.
He was.
Blue Hill. So we're going. Oh, he was. Okay, good. We're going back a long time now. But yeah, to answer your question, the bug definitely started with my mom. No question about it. Growing up in a traditional Italian American home, you know, there's lots of food around, and you know, food was just always a part of life. And cooking was always a part of life. I think things are very different today, and you know, you could grow up and not even be exposed to people cooking these days for the first 10, 15 years of your life. But I was fortunate to have that experience, and you know, my family still made their own bread and wine and preserves and canned tomatoes, and they still do to this day, actually, and they're almost in their 90s now. But then I started working in New York at restaurants in New York City, and that really, you know, spurred on my love for the craft and for cooking, and gave all the energy my career needed.
Well, I first heard about the keto food, and you actually wrote a book that people can still get called Rocco's Keto Comfort Food Diet. Eat the foods you miss. And I think that was it, and lose up to 1 pound a day. But you were very into healthy food, too, without getting rid of all the foods we grew up with or loved.
Yes, I always thought it would be, you know, reasonable and prudent to try to figure out how to eat the foods that we grew up loving and the foods that we love, you know, today. And some of them are considered junk foods or, you know, sort of weeknight meals. But, you know, we're talking about fried chicken and pastas and, you know, chicken wings and tacos and guacamole and that kind of thing, and figure out how to take out most of the unhealthy parts, the processed carbs, the you know, intense amount of sugars, and keep what's good. And in the Keto Comfort Diet book, that's usually protein and fat. Because in the context of a keto diet, you want to have a high-fat, high-protein diet, or a moderate protein diet, high-fat diet. And I was able to do that, and that book came out March 2020. Yeah, and that's definitely still available. And, you know, that comes after 9 other books on health and wellness. And, I'm really proud of my record on health and wellness. Although I am working on my first book that is not a healthy book.
What is
that will
it?
be out this time next year. It's an everyday meal book. We don't have a title yet, but it's basically me cooking at home. And health and wellness is not mentioned once. I'm delighted to say.
Okay, good.
The focus is delicious and delicious only.
No, and well,
it was time for that, right?
You know how to make delicious food. And I don't know if you're doing it, but I remember when you had a food delivery service.
Yeah, still doing that. Yeah, and still delivering healthy and delicious food.
Well, of course. And everyone wants you to cook for them. I read a story about, how, I forget what it is. I think it was the Times. Does something on how people spend their Sundays. Do you remember that? And they talked about you, and I couldn't believe it. I said, how does that guy eat that much food and look so good on a Sunday?
Thank you.
And you talk about you get up sort of at the crack of dawn, have a little protein shake, go back to bed, and then you would start eating at different intervals during the day.
Yeah, Sunday is the break fast day. It's the day that I'm not really concerned about what I eat. It's unlike the other 6 days of the week where I'm closely monitoring my food and drink consumption, counting calories, counting grams of fat and alcohol and all that boring stuff. And Sunday's the day I kind of just give into it all. But it's interesting. If you're moderate during the week, it's easier to stay moderate on Sundays. So it's not really like a complete
stuffing yourself.
Yeah.
Do you still go to Balthazar for Sunday breakfast?
I do as often as I can. So yes, in the Sunday routine article, they talked about how I combine my breakfast, lunch, and dinner into one big brunch. And I still try to do that as often as I can. But I love all of Keith's restaurants. I go to a lot of his restaurants whenever I can. But Balthazar has the nicest seafood platter, which is also very healthy, by the way. It's really fun. And if you're looking for a celebration for the holidays or, for anything else during the year, it's a great way to mark an event as a special event. They've got the 3-tier seafood platter, and it's the best in the city. I maintain it's the best in the city today, and it was 16 years ago when they opened up.
Right, and it's delicious.
Just absolutely delicious, yeah.
And are you
very healthy? Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Are you cooking for your pals? What, Rocco?
Not that we care anymore about healthy, right? We're going to take a break from healthy for a year.
Yeah, well, we're going to, we're eating real food. It's a little moderation. And when you love food, you want to eat. I mean, food is one of life's great pleasures, and it's also our social lives in many different ways. So are you cooking for your pals on Sunday?
Yes. You mentioned, you make a great point. Food is how we socialize. It's how we tell people we love them, how we tell people we care for them. It's a language, right? It's a language that especially chefs and people like you and me, food enthusiasts, use every single day to give meaning to moments in our life and family members. And so sometimes it's very difficult to navigate the communication using this food as a language, as your main language, and make sure that you're checking all the boxes of health and wellness as well. So probably a good idea to get into a physical activity routine so you don't have to worry so much about the food. But yes, I'm hosting my family again for the first time since the pandemic. My whole family's coming over for Christmas and Christmas Day, and maybe even New Year's Day, and it's truly one of the great joys of my life. And I'm thinking about how to simplify the menu because I typically do too much, as you probably would expect. And I'm thinking, there'll be one seafood course and one traditional meat course, and that's going to be it. But I doubt that's going to happen. I'll probably end up with several
what you're going to
do. Yeah, I know it's going to happen. I'm going to go to Citarella. I'm going to buy everything I see. And there's going to, before I know, there's going to be 3 kinds of potatoes, 3 kinds of pastas. Yeah.
And everything absolutely delicious. And I've seen you. It's sometimes at night when I can't sleep, I'll go to the Food Network and watch Guy Fieri. The Food Network, if they like you, they run you all the time. and this is Guy's time. He's on night and day. And you're on the Food Network a lot of times with Guy as a judge, as a contestant, and you're so cool at that. Do you feel anxiety in all these contests?
So I think everyone you ask will tell you that those competitions are very provocative. They cause a lot of anxiety. They also bring up a lot of really fun feelings. And all of us, I'm sure, feel some sort of anxiety and performance issues whenever we compete, because they reset the clock, so to speak, every time. You never start with an advantage, because the competitions, they've gotten smart about it. They know that we know how things are going to go. So if they don't throw 4 or 5 obstacles in our way, it won't be hard enough. So every time you compete, it's with new ingredients, a new time limit, a new game, especially on Guy's grocery games, which is super fun. He does manage to make it really fun. We do laugh a lot, and as much as you see me crying on those shows, I'm also laughing. But it's a pleasure pain thing.
Right, I like that.
It's really fun. It's really fun. I have to say, it's really fun. And it's interesting. You do discover new things about yourself in terms of cooking, ingredients, understanding of ingredients. He's got 35,000 ingredients, I think, in that store. Mm. And so we're always using new things. They'll force you to use, rattlesnake in a can, whole chicken in a can, tactical bacon, crazy things, tapioca you wouldn't normally use. So it's kind of fun and challenging, and it does, itch your cook bone or your culinary bone, and you have to scratch it and figure out what's up and what's in your mind and what you're going to do. Yeah.
And it's very interesting.
I'm glad you find it entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch the way they do this, where it's people pitted against each other. There's a huge time factor involved. So you sort of feel that anxiety when you're watching this, but it seems to be a very big thing. The audiences love these competitions. I wonder if, do you love the competitions, or you'd rather just cook?
I prefer the competitions over the judging. So I do both for Guy's Grocery Games and for Tournament of Champions and on Guy's Ranch Kitchen and other shows on Food Network. And I prefer the competitions because it feels a little more honest to me, and I know what to do when ingredients are laid out before me and there's a time crunch, because that's just like sort of everyday cooking, right? It's always like that. And the judging is where it gets a little challenging, because you just never know how much of judging is personal preference. How
right,
fair you're being, and so you're always second guessing yourself, right? Was I fair enough? Did I score them properly? What I love about Tournament of Champions, Guy's new show, which is in season 4, we just shot season 4, is that it's blind judging, and he's got some really amazing judges on there, like Nancy Silverton and Jonathan Waxman and other really, really big chefs. Yeah, so they're just top of their game, and it's blind judging. You don't know who you're judging. You don't know what the challenge was, so it really comes down to taste, execution, attractiveness of the plate. So it's a little more fair, and I feel a little more comfortable judging in that arena. Also, that kitchen is so enormous. If your cardio isn't 100%, you're going to lose.
Right, because you have to run around.
Cardio condition, yeah. When they ask me what's the most important thing for new contestants, I say cardio. You have to be able to run a mile under 6 minutes.
Oh my gosh! But it's amazing to see you and see all these top chefs, because you don't know, right, what you're going to be asked to cook or what you're going to make, and you just know that ingredients are there, so whatever they want, they can get. But a chef has to really keep calm and be solid on his or her feet. And to make some of these things are very complicated, and do it in a time frame. So you have to watch the clock, cook, taste, and then, hope it worked.
For sure. You described it perfectly. There's a lot to think about. The time crunch is, very real. It's usually 35 minutes. And, it takes 5 to 7 minutes just to grab your ingredients. And then there's, a lot of zonk ingredients and obstacles, like, we need you to use a TV grill, the George Foreman grill, or or an immersion blender that is only an inch long, or just funny stuff like that to keep it interesting. So being calm and grace under fire is certainly a big part of it. And there are people who are just absolutely amazing at it. Brooke Williamson and Manit Chauhan, who won season 1 and season 2. They do this without breaking a sweat. They just get to work, and they can stay steady and calm. And no matter how much pressure Guy applies, they just perform. And I take my hat off to them. I believe I lost to Manit Chauhan in the first season. And you know what? I gave it up to her willingly. I said, you won, fair and square without doubt. You outperformed me in every way. And, there are people who are really, really good at this. I think if you're about 10 years younger, you grew up in this world of reality competition. So you've done many, many of these, and it's just second nature.
Right. Well, and it's a lot of fun to watch it, too. So
fun. I'm glad you think it's fun. Watching us suffer is fun, huh, Joan? I get it.
Right. So if you could do anything, and there's so much around, and you are doing so many different things, what would your preference be?
You know what Rocco, I would love to do right now? I've been thinking about this a lot. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been thinking about this a lot. What I would love to do is to have a 10-person counter in the West Village somewhere and just make 6 pasta courses, a la minute, complete omakase style. Just whatever I felt like cooking, for 90 minutes for 10 people, 3 times a night. Doesn't that sound like heaven? Sounds like heaven to me.
You know what? It sounds great. The only thing is you'd have a hard time getting your turnover because no one's going to want to leave. They're going to sit at your counter eating
90 minutes, yeah.
You'd have to have a limit on it, too, but it's a great idea. I always thought in my neighborhood, I didn't think so much about pasta, but I thought about a very late night Chinese menu that would be served from 10 o'clock till midnight, and it could be whatever. But again, a long counter with that. But I think I like the idea of pasta even better.
Yeah,
that sounds delicious.
Everybody loves pasta. Everyone is in love with, delicious pasta. And now people really understand luxury ingredients that you and I used to talk about 20 years ago. People really get those, and they understand why they're expensive and special. And so I think it'd be a really good opportunity to make, pasta with truffles, pasta with caviar, pasta with 36, month aged Parmigiano Reggiano, those kinds of things that we're always thinking twice about in regular restaurant, everyday business.
And what is your comfort pasta when you need something?
That's easy.
Your weekend is not complete without the First Lady of New York Radio. It's the Joan Hamburg Show.